Yeah, we was on en route up to Dumfries, Virginia, Quantico, a Marine base area up there, south of Washington, D.C., for a show tomorrow. The Down South Jukin Band out of Winchester, Virginia area was playing there, invited me to come up, sell some books. I invited Jimmy Withers to go up there with me, and we're headed up there, and right back down the road there a little bit. By the time we come across the Florida-Georgia line, one of them, my car's got a couple coil packs on it, two coils, called a coil pack, and one of them went out, and it's running on like 1.5 or 2 cylinders, and it's just, you can't drive it. And so I got a coil pack ordered. It won't come in till around 10 o'clock tomorrow whenever the truck comes in at Advanced Auto.
Yeah, it was running bad, man.
Yeah, and you can't drive it. It's Gene Odom luck, and it's hell from here. It's probably 12 hours anyway from here up there. So whenever we get that part in there, I'll just turn around and go back home, and I will next time Down South Jukin Band get something together. Maybe I can keep the car running long enough to get up there. But it's got 2 coil packs, and about 2 weeks ago, one went out. The mechanic told me when he replaced it that with 260-something thousand miles, the other one would probably be going out for too long. And sure enough, it went out. So we're stranded up here in actually Kings Bay, right down the nuclear submarine base is right down the road. So we're just stranded up here on the way to Dumfries, Virginia. I don't know how you pronounce it, Dumfries or Dumfries. Dumfries, south of Washington, D.C., the Marine base there, Quantico. And we were headed up there to do a show, and broke down in Georgia. Sounded like a pickup truck in the backwoods of Georgia broke down. All right, what's next, Jimmy, on the list? Like I was telling you, Lord have mercy, it was, I fell in 1990. So it must have been after the plane crash, 77. I went back to work, iron working in 1980 after I healed up from the plane crash. Somewhere between 80 and 90, I'd say 84, 85 maybe. 86, whatever, when they were building the submarine base. I worked up there for quite some time on the submarine base, straightening beams that would carry the overhead cranes through them buildings around in there to carry the nuclear warheads. 11 different contractors couldn't straighten them beams, and they contacted that Union Iron Worker local. I was up as a foreman, and my whole crew was boomers from up north, and a couple of them were, Class A iron workers. And so we straightened those beams, and the Navy said, we'll straighten the first ones, set them up, and we'll see how they look to see if you get the contract. I think it was Bechtel. I was working for it, Bechtel.
Later, I'll ask you how the hell you straighten a beam. I mean, it just seems like.
Oh, I'll tell you. And I think it was Bechtel. Anyway, we straightened them, set the overhead crane on them, and the Navy inspector and Bechtel's guys were there, and so the Navy inspector said, "We'll see how the overhead crane works, and that'll determine how the beams look. We'll shoot them with an instrument." While he was talking, he was leaning against the overhead crane, and while he was leaning against the overhead crane, it started rolling, and it rolled from that position all the way down to the stop, where it stops at the other end of the building. And that shows you how level it was. It didn't go too fast. It didn't come back. So anyway, it rolled to the stop, and he went, "We don't have to shoot that." That overhead crane weighed like 25 tons, massive. And so he said, "Those beams are perfectly straight. We don't have to shoot them." He said, "Y'all got the contract." So we straightened up, and those beams were 36 inches high, and were massive, huge girders is what they were, but they're big beams. I mean, massive. And we straightened. They were, from however, and 11 contractors I must say, 11 non-union contractors couldn't straighten those beams, but the union iron workers, 597, we straightened them, and all of them, and I got the contract. Well, 69, everybody was getting drafted. They were drafting people from school, out the house, drafting them out the junkyard. You know, everybody was getting drafted, being sent to Vietnam, you know, because it was wide open. And so I had got married to my wife, my first wife, Brenda, in 67, because she moved away over to West Florida. And her dad went to work for Florida Caverns, and she moved away. And I went over to see her and visit her and realized that, you know, so I brought her back to Jacksonville and we got married. We were 18, 17, 18. She was 18, 17, I was 18.
Right.
So, you know, if you were married, they put you down the list of them. So, you know, I didn't get married to stay out of the draft. I got married because my girlfriend had moved away, and I brought her back. And so several friends got drafted, went overseas, and Ronnie had been, his brother-in-law, Bill Morris, had an auto parts business, and I was laid off, and I went to work for Ronnie at Morris Auto Supply, delivering parts.
It's over there on Timuquana.
On Timuquana. But Morris opened up a second location over on Beach and University. Morris Auto Supply 2 made Ronnie the manager, and I was sent over there to parts run, deliver parts. And Ronnie was rehearsing all night, working all day, rehearsing all night. So I would pick him up in the truck and take him, and I'd drive Ronnie to work. And so I don't know how long I worked there. And then back then, the auto parts places for AC spark plugs, if you sold X amount of money's worth of merchandise for AC spark plug, you would get an all expense paid vacation for a week somewhere, wherever AC spark plugs chose for that vacation to be. So that year, it was an all expense paid vacation for 2 to Honolulu, Hawaii.
Oh, nice.
So Bill and his wife, Ronnie's oldest sister, Joanne, were busy. They couldn't go or didn't want to go, whatever the excuse was. And so they gave the 2 free tickets to Lacey and sister. Sister wouldn't fly under no circumstances. And so Lacey asked Ronnie. Ronnie wouldn't fly. He didn't want to fly back then. He hated to fly, so he didn't want to go. And the other kids were too young. So Lacey asked me if I wanted to go. All expense paid vacation, Honolulu. Hey, well, yeah. Yeah, I was working for Ronnie. Anyway, so Ronnie said, yeah, go ahead. So we go to Honolulu for a week. All expense paid.
Nice.
And so when I come back home, pull up in the driveway, and go to the mailbox, and my draft papers is in the mailbox. I'm drafted.
God.
Come back on vacation and got drafted.
That's another Gene Odom block,
I'm
right?
telling you what, son, I opened up and I went, man, alive. So I reported to the place out there, went had the shots and everything, and I was drafted. Spent 2 years in there, 1 year, 11 months, and 10 days. I think it was 1 year, 11 months, and 20 days, I think. And that was 1969 to 70, 71. I was sent to Europe. I was.
Well, where'd you go? And I mean, where did they send
Well, I
you?
went through basic training at Fort Benning, Georgia, and then was sent to Oklahoma, Fort Sill artillery training. And so came home for vacation before I was sent. And you'd get your orders where to report to. If your order said Fort Ord, California, you was sent to Vietnam. I got mine, and mine was a report to Fort Dix, New Jersey. And so, you know, Fort Dix, New Jersey, and with me and this group of guys, we were sitting around. It was 1:30 in the morning. We got called up, and the guy was being smart ass. He said, "Hey, Odom, and yeah, come on, you suckers are going to Vietnam. Your order's been changed. We all got, what his mother got, blah, blah, and it got us in a group, got us up where we were going. We got we was boarding a C-130 transport plane on the back of it. He said, nah, you guys are going to Germany. Y'all going to Germany. And he handed us our orders and stuff, and 2nd Battalion, 28th Field Artillery, Ansbach, Germany, where I was sent. He was looking through the paperwork when I got to Germany, and the OD was looking through that, and he said, man, you're 44C. I said, why? He said, you're secondary, and what's your 44C? That's a welder. I said, yeah, I'm a welder. I'm an iron worker. I welded for years. He said, our welder died yesterday. You'll be the new welder in service battalion. I'm the service officer. And I went, oh, I want that job. What did he die from? He said he OD'd on some kind of acid, orange acid, whatever orange acid was back then, acid.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he died. He overdosed. Funny story. I stayed the welder for quite some time, went up in rank, and they come in one day to me and said, hey, we got a guy coming from Vietnam. He's going home on leave, but he's going to be stationed here, and he's going to take your job because he's a RA and you're a US. Meaning that RA, regular Army, he joined the Army and he took training to be a welder. I was drafted, so I was a US, meaning I was drafted for 2 years. So he have his priority, his rank as RA would have rank a privilege over me because I'm a US, and he still got a year in the military. I said, no problem. I want Simpson's job. Simpson's rotating, going back home. I want his parts running job. It's okay when Walker gets here. You show Walker the ropes, teach Walker everything you need to know. He needs to know, and then you'll take Simpson's job, parts running. I did, but anyway. So when a couple of days after Walker got there, I was at my welding shop, and I was asking around, saying, "Where's Walker at?" A couple guys went, I said, "Where's Walker?" He said, "He's up in his room, Gene. He took some orange acid, and he's out." And so I said, "I'm gonna go check on him." So I go up into the room, and he's looking at the ceiling,
Oh my God.
flipping out.
Wow.
And they said, don't let him get over it. He didn't OD, but he was just how long it takes an orange acid to go through. So the next day I said, "Hey, how you like that orange acid?" He said, "Oh my God." He said, "I just can't believe it." He said, "I can't believe it." He said, "I'll never do that again. I'll never do it, never do it." So here's a sad story. 1970. He came back from Vietnam.
Same guy?
He went home on leave from Vietnam before he came to Germany. While he was home on leave, he had all that money and the combat pay and everything, so he had a sack full of money. Went and bought him a brand new 1970 455 Monster Trans Am.
Nice.
Oh, beautiful. So anyway, all right, so I rotate out, come home, which he stayed there for probably almost another year before he got out. And there was a guy named Turley that was stationed there with me and him that were from the same county in West Virginia. They basically knew each other. And so years later, I contacted Turley. Me and Turley stayed good friends, and I asked him about, how's Walker? If you've seen Walker since he got out? He got out in 71. And he went, man, Gene, he said he got out and got in that damn Firebird haul in West Virginia. He said he was hauling ass, lost control, and hit some rocks and beside the mountain and killed himself. About a week after he got home. Vietnam, Germany, and then goes home and kills himself. And
You'll go off that side of the mountain if you don't watch out.
He'd been in the military for 3 years, and you lose all your driving if you're not driving.
Wow.
And he got in behind that car, and it was 455, probably 500 horsepower. Well, that was probably 300, had about 400 horsepower. And in West Virginia, and got killed. That broke my heart. All right, what's next on the agenda? Fiddling around, and I'm sure that I transported them hippies at the several shows, clubs. I'll never forget one was Georgia Southern, and they played Jimi Hendrix. Hey Joe, where you going with that money in your hand? And me and Ronnie called me up. We'd go fishing. You know, he's home fiddling around, and they was doing a lot of rehearsing and recording songs and playing little old gigs and stuff like that. And I think they had picked up that Al Cooper guy about, well, it's probably 72, maybe 69, 70, 71, so somewhere around there. But we stayed in contact, and he'd call me up. We'd go fishing. He'd come out on the jobs I was working on and pick me up. And our workers couldn't believe that Ronnie Van Zant was coming out there picking up Gene Odom. And that went on all the way up to 70, 75, 70, and it come time to 76. Come out on the jobs. And that's how I got back piddling with them. And then at 76 and 77 is when I stayed with them full time. All right.
The gun.
The gun. Okay. Yeah. We all see on a lot of footage of Ronnie, a camera, some shots of Ronnie, with this guy holding a gun to Ronnie's head. Ooh. Here it is. And
Be careful. It's loaded.
yeah, no problem. No problem. Yeah. Okay. All right, getting back to this gun. Barry Fay was a promoter out in Denver, Colorado. And I wasn't there at this particular time. But they would have been drinking, carrying on, and Barry Fay had bought this gun with intentions of giving it to Ronnie Van Zant. And so they were drunk and piddling around, whatever. And so there's a shot of Barry Fay pointing this gun at Ronnie's head, you know, jokingly, I'm sure. And it's all over YouTube and the internet. And most folks don't know that it's this gun, but this was the gun. And so when he came home, it was in a box, a wooden box, and it might have been inside this. But anyway, Ronnie had it for a while, and I was out there piddling around, and I looked at it, seen it, and so we went fishing one morning early, and McGurk's Creek. For y'all that don't know where McGurk's Creek is, McGurk's Creek runs from the Timaquana Bridge, parallel with NAS Jacksonville, crosses over under 295, and crosses Blanding Boulevard. That is actually the Duval County, Clay County line there. But that's actually called McGurk's Creek. Some people call it Artiga River, different things, but it's from McGurk's Creek. And we would fish for bass there, starting around April, May, June. And a lot of times, water moccasins are breeding and bedding at that time, and they'll have a nest, babies in them bushes. And if you don't know it, if a water moccasin has babies nearby and you come by there in a boat piddling, that snake will come out there. If it's not in a tree, it will come out there in the water and run you off or try to get in the boat with you. So we would carry this pistol and carry a couple 22 slugs in it and carry some rat shot for shooting the snakes. So when we did that, I used to have a 9-shot Ivory Johnson target pistol we carried, and I forgot it. So Ronnie brought this one out there. And so while we was fishing, and we came back from fishing, Ronnie gave me the pistol. He said he didn't have no use for it, and so he gave me this pistol. And so I kept it for years. And then Ricky Mullis, ironworker buddy of mine, saw it, had to have it, so I let Ricky have it. And so recently, Ricky has came down with a bad liver and needed a transplant. So I did a benefit show for Ricky a couple of months ago. And so in order to get a little money together and to help with the cost of putting on the benefit show for Ricky, Ricky put this gun up, was going to put it up for auction or raffle at his benefit. But Jimmy Withers decided that he would rather have the gun than have it auctioned or raffled. So Jimmy purchased it, and we used that money to help pay for some of the benefit expenses for Ricky Mullis. And this is the gun that you see in that shots on YouTube and Facebook of Barry Fay pointing this gun at Ronnie Van Zant's head, as a joke, of course, but this is the actual pistol. But that's the gun. So Jimmy Withers is the proud owner of the gun that Ronnie Van Zant is having pointed at his head on YouTube and Facebook and all those pictures with Barry Fay. We shot it back then at some moccasins and target practice. It shoots very straight, you know, because I ain't shot it in, my God, since somewhere 1977. But
Wow.
It's a 22, so it don't have a lot of kick in its head. You'd shoot what you was aiming at with this pistol if you held it and pointed it directly what you're going to shoot at. It don't have no kick.
Okay. All right, that's out of the way.
Woohoo! I got 1 million of them.
Well, let us have it.
Well, man, I'm gonna give you 2 of them. Ronnie Van Zant was superstitious. Like black cats stepping across his fishing pole in the boat or on the dock or on the land, and things would scare him. He was very, very shaky and scary from being superstitious. And Jaws, I could scare him by saying, "There's Jaws." Jaws was that big old 13-foot gator that was behind his house back in 77. So we went jigger fishing. He wanted to go jigger fishing, but he wanted to go on his lake, Doctor's Lake, behind his house. That way we wouldn't have to go driving around at nighttime someplace else, because he didn't like that nighttime stuff. You could scare that boy to death easy. So behind his house, he would feel better, close to home, I guess, or whatever.
What'd you do? Just like, there's.
So jigger fishing is you use a heavy cane pole, short line, and then you have you make your own plug or bait. Are we still live?
Yeah.
You
getting a wide shot so I can see your hands. Like
a jig, you make your own bait to make noise. And I had back then it was called a Go Devil, and it had a spinner on it, big hook and black thing, and then you put a trailer on it and you make it whatever. And so to jigger fish, it's pitch black. You're up against the bank or the grass or whatever, so the water's kind of the deep, and with that pole, you got an electric motor or somebody rowing you quiet or paddling you, so you're moving. And you take the end of that pole with that bait behind you and you tap the water. You hit that water, and that causes the fish reaction to see that splash, 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 splash. And then behind it, that bait's trailing, and that's what they go for. I mean, you don't catch no small bass. I'm talking you catch big bass.
Oh, wow, that's
or
it.
You lose big bass, 10, 12, 14, 15, 16, 18 pounders.
Wow.
And when they hit that thing, they take that whole pole, scare you to death. And he would, if he got a strike, he'd miss it because he would snatch and jerk. I said, "You got to, and he, anyway, so he'd do that a couple times. And mullet is all out there in that time of the year, coming up from the ocean, and he was out there. I said, "There's Jaws." He went, man, it scared the piss out of him. because he thought Jaws was up there, you know. And
Jaws
so-
the crocodile or gator.
the big gator, you know. And so he'd calm down a little bit, you know. And I said, "Boy, guys, there's Jaws again." And I swear, about the time I said there's Jaws again, a mullet jumped out of the water. He had a mullet jump and come right across the bow boat and hit him in the stomach. Oh my God, he jumped up screaming. Ah, it just freaked him. I'm talking about scared the piss out of him, scared him to death. And so then he realized it was a mullet. He stomped that mullet, he stomped it and stomped it. And I was going, "Man alive, what are you doing?" "Man, I can't." Man. And then he'd throw that mullet underwater, you know. I mean, God, you kill that poor old mullet. So I scared him to death. That's it. Let's go. We're done. If I had any money, I'd give $1 billion to see that expression on his face. Mullet. And I said, "There's Jaws," and that mullet come right out of the water and Johnny's again. Scared him to death. So I'm telling you, mess with him.
Oh my God. Said you had a couple.
Yeah, and the other one is he always wanted a trophy bass. Since we were 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 29 years old, we fished for bass, largemouth bass, black bass. And he never got a big one. And he always wanted an old truck, and he wanted a big old trophy bass before he died. He got the old pickup truck, 55. And so it was May 77. "Man, let's go fishing. Let's go Lake Delancey." "All right, I'll come pick you up." I got him. We drove out not from Placa, down by Salt Springs, Lake Delancey, and in the Ocala National Forest. So we got Pete's giving me gas. We got down the lake, and as soon as I backed up there, we got in the woods. Throw that boat out right there in the woods, so no boat ramps or nothing. And started raining. It's not bad, but it started raining. I said, "Give it a little while." He said, "Man, come on, Gene. I got stuff I need to do." I said, "Man," I said, "No, you want that big bass. This is your day." He said, "No, man, it's looking at it raining." He said, let's just give it up and go home and do it again tomorrow." I said, "Man," I said, "this is your day." And he kind of get perturbed, you know. He says, "Man, look here, it's raining. Let's go on home." And he take me home. I got stuff I can do. It's gonna rain. I said, "You know, those old Florida storms, it'll blow by in a minute or two." I ain't no sooner said that, and it stopped. Just like that, the plug was pulled on him. And I said, "Look, see, it stopped raining." He says, "Well," I said, "Come on, man, it stopped. It's done blowed by. You know how it is." I threw that old aluminum boat out the back of the truck. We threw that boat out there, you know. We would go past a couple of docks. There was a couple of little houses there. We'd go past a couple of little docks, vacation, mobile home type things, you know. And we'd start fishing there, and we'd fish around the lake. And we had just started. And he was in the front of the boat, because I would be paddling, or Indian paddling, or rowing, whatever which I was doing. And I don't think we had an electric motor. I know we didn't. And so I used a black old monster worm, and he'd use a purple old monster worm. And he threw that, we had bait casting reels, old ambassadors, and he threw that old worm and a lot of sawgrass out there, you know, a lot of grass. And that worm hit that grass and made it to the water. And as soon as that worm hit the water,
Really?
I said, "Son," I said, "there's your trophy bass." And I said, "Set the hook." And boy, he hit the hook. And I said, "Keep him out of the grass, keep him out of the grass, you know." And it was a big bass. And he was, you know, he was fighting that bass, you know, and son, his eyes were that big, you know. And I said, "Keep him out of that grass, try to turn him, don't let him get in that grass, man." And so the old bass finally turned and came out toward the boat in deeper water. And that morning we had I left the net because it had a hole in it. The dip net was rotten, and so we didn't have a dip net. And Ronnie said, "Oh my God, we don't have no dip, we don't have no net." And I said, "Man," I said, "just keep a tight line, keep it tight, get him close to the boat, and I'll get him in the boat. And that old big old bass, Ronnie fought that big old bass, and that old bass come out of the water a couple times, and the third time it couldn't come out of the water. It was so big it just rolled. And so he got it up by the boat, and I grabbed that old bass by the mouth, and I rolled that old bass over in the boat.
You put the bass in your mouth?
Oh, I grabbed the bass by the mouth.
Oh,
He got
okay.
I got him by the mouth, and I rolled him over in the boat, tried him over, and he weighed almost 13 pounds.
How big is that? And
It's big, and your average.
do that again?
That's big. Your average big bass is probably
Wow.
30 inches probably. Your average bass you catch nowadays is 3 pounds or smaller. If you catch a 5 pounder, that's a big one. If you get a 10 pounder in a tournament or whatever, that's a big bass. But 13, that's big. And so when the bass was in the boat safely, he started getting around me, and he grabbed me and hugged me. Man, this is it. This is my trophy. Jumping around just screaming. And I said, you're gonna turn the boat over. I said, calm down. He's doing, man, come on. Oh, this is great. I got my truck and my bass. That's the best day of his life right there.
Wow, really?
Bar none. That was the best day of his life. And next thing, let's go, because Carl, the guy that had the little fish camp there, had a tank, a net in the water where you could put your fish in and keep them till you got back. And he had a scale. Let's go weigh this. Come on, Gene. I said, man, we're fishing. He said, no, let's go right now, but we won't lose any weight, because if you don't have it, keep it alive, it start losing body weight, which is water.
Yeah.
And so let's go weigh it, man. Let's go weigh it. So we went up there and weighed the bass. I think it was 12 pounds, 13 ounces. That's almost 13 pounds. And he put it we put it in the deep well, the tank out in the water, so it would be alive, swimming, and come back.
It was still alive?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we kept it. It didn't take us 3 minutes to get back to the thing. We kept it alive. And so we went fishing and caught several more fish on the other side of the lake. I hung a monster that broke. That's what it was called back then. He had this, when it came out with Fenwick, they came out with these rods, and it's called a lunker stick, and so that bass broke my pole right there at the reel. And I thought,
shit.
And I'm like, God, can you believe that, man? Can you believe that? And the bass was still on the line, and I had the end with the reel, and old bass went, I'm dead, and he pulled off. That was a big bass.
Was it the same day?
Same day.
Oh, wow.
When Ronnie had his big bass. So
Okay.
I'm glad I didn't catch it, because it could have been bigger than his. So I lost a big one, a real big one, but Ronnie got his trophy bass.
Yeah.
I think he got the bass back right before he died from the taxidermy,
Oh, really?
because we carried it to the taxidermy, and I taxidermied 3 of mine. You don't do that. You wouldn't do that now, because it's not hip to do that. You catch and release now. But back then, if you caught a 10, 12, 14, 15, 17 pound bass, you have it mounted,
Yeah.
And some people may steal, but it's not, you don't do that. You turn them loose, catch them, put them catch and release, especially black bass, because it's such
I remember when I was a kid, I'd see them on people's walls.
They even put out the state of Florida even puts out a brochure every year stating the fact that you can only catch 5 or 3. If you're in a tournament, they have to be over a foot long, catch and release. And if you catch them privately, they ask you to catch and release, because they're a tournament bass. It's a money-making sport, and they want you to release the big ones and release all the bass, because of the population is not like it used to be.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, not like back in the 30s and 40s, they were just monster bass everywhere. In the 50s, in the early 60s, but it's difficult to catch a big one like that nowadays. But I know where some are at. I wouldn't tell nobody, but I know where some monsters are at. Skynyrd was playing, but I mean brawl.
Oh, bro.
Brawl, yeah. It was a brawl. The whole place was, the whole joint was fighting.
What happened?
Oh, with me, Skynyrd's playing, and I'm on the floor dancing. I'm getting down, and this guy and this other girl dancing. Now, I can't remember who I was dancing with. But it was the floor when Skynyrd plays. Even today, when old Skynyrd plays, people get up and dance. I mean, Skynyrd's one of the bands that'll put you on the floor dancing, shoving your shoes around. And so this guy he'd bump into me, and so after a couple of bumps, it wasn't an accident. He was trying to, he's a little bit bigger than me.
Trying to start a mosh pit, I think.
He was trying to make, they wasn't, he wanted plenty of elbow room, and so
Right.
I let it slide a couple times, it was Bob Burns, Larry Johnstrom, Alan, Gary, and Ronnie. There wasn't no Ed King back then. And at one time he just got really rough, and I don't know if I remember backhanding or knocked the dog piss out of him, and so we was going at it, and then I guess he had some friends, or whatever, and so we're all fighting, and so then here comes Ronnie and Bob Burns, Gary Rosington, Alan Collins. I don't think Larry Johnson. Larry was a nerd, but he wasn't a fighter. He what you call a
well, you're a nerd.
a nerd, but.
Is it more into the technical?
He was a technical wizard, electrical wizard guy. But I don't remember. I don't think him getting off the stage. But
the rest of the band came off the stage.
We've been fighting everybody. We whipped the whole joint. Finally, it broke up, and they got back on stage and was carried on with dancing going on. But
nice.
Yes, sir, buddy. They were right there. There was a house there, and we had cut the grass a couple times or whatever, and did a little hilly stuff, but we didn't pay attention to it. It never was inside. So we was out there, and we seen a couple of guys walk out, and so we were going to go up and see if we could cut the grass or whatever, but this one guy and a couple of guys came out, and they said, one of them said, "Man, that's the best $5 stuff I've ever had." And Ronnie sitting out there, we're not paying attention to what the $5 stuff was, We was talking about maybe when these people leave and we'll ask them if we can cut the grass or whatever, rake leaves or whatever it was. And so another guy came out there smiling or whatever, and a couple more guys come out and say, "Man, that's the best $5 stuff I've ever had." And so we 10, 11 years old, we don't know what the hell's going on. So we was looking at each other and, trying to debate whether to knock on the door and ask him if we could cut the grass or whatever, make a little juking money. And he had 25 cents. So Ronnie goes up, and I'm hiding in the bushes. Ronnie goes up, knocks on the door. Lady comes to the door, and real nice, pretty lady, and she had on like a robe thing. And so she asked Ronnie, what did he want? And Ronnie said he wanted a quarter's worth of that $5 stuff. And I just got a glance of my eye, out of my eye. She spun right around and spanked him on the butt and told him, "You better get out of here, little boy." So Ronnie came back out. I was right in the bushes there hiding. And I said, "You get it?" He said, "No, she spanked me and told me to get out of there." I said, "Well, I don't know if we'll be able to cut the grass or whatever." And so I reached over and I said, "You got that money?" I said, "Right, yeah." I said, "Give me that quarter." So I took the quarter and I went up to the door and I went. This old gal came to the door, lady. She had that robe on, button down robe thing. She said, "What do you want?" I said, "You ain't the same little boy. What do you want?" I had that quarter in my hand. I said, "Lady, I want a quarter's worth of that $5 stuff, and I'm not leaving till I get it." And she said, "Oh yeah." I said, "That's right." So she grabbed the quarter and opened up her robe, and she didn't have no drawers on. And she grabbed me by the head, and she stuck my head down, and rubbed my head around, just rubbed my face around, and she turned me loose, and I stumbled off the porch, and Ronnie said, "Did you get it? Did you get it?" I said, "Thank God, I only had a quarter." Ronnie says, "Oh my God." I said, "Thank God I only had a quarter. Thank God I only had a quarter." A 10-year-old boy couldn't handle $5 worth of that stuff. Whee. Every year every hunting season, we would go out to on the Santa Fe River in Gilchrist County, out southwest of Lake City. We'd go over there, we'd rabbit hunt early in the morning, and then we'd squirrel hunt. Me and Ronnie, Alan, Gary.
Oh, is that west? Is it out I-10?
I-10, you go to Lake City and you cut through Lake City and go Highway 27. And back, of course, now it's probably grown up or houses or whatever, but there was nothing but woods. And
Right.
we'd go out down that river, and we would, and the funny thing, before the sun comes up, nighttime, whatever, rabbit hunting, I don't think it was even legal. You know, you might could do it when the sun comes up, but the more rabbits would be sitting on the side of the road eating. And if you ever shot a rabbit with a rifle or a shotgun, no matter where you hit him at, his two back legs are always broke. So we couldn't figure that out. And but then we had talked to an old guy, and he says, when you shoot him, watch what a rabbit does. When you shoot a rabbit, when it hits him, he jumps so hard to try to get away that he breaks both of his back legs. You shoot him with a shotgun, boom!
Really?
Yeah, when he jumps, he breaks both of his back legs because he jumps so hard to try to get away from him. And then we started paying attention. You shoot that rabbit, boom, that rabbit jumps and then falls over. But he jumps so hard he breaks his back legs. We'd do that. We shoot a few rabbits, and then we would squirrel hunt. So usually when we squirrel hunt, we'd say, okay, we'll whistle or we'll holler when we get ready to go get something to eat, and we'll all come out of the woods and we'll go get something to eat.
And this was you and
Ronnie and Alan and Gary.
okay.
And so, but you separate and go different ways to hunt for squirrels, whatever. So when we were going out, I'm walking away, and I don't know which one it was or how many it was, or one or two, but I shot with a shotgun right over my head. Boom, scared that piss out of me. You know.
Oh, they thought it was funny to. Okay.
Oh, yeah. So a couple of hours. Hey, come on. We're going to get something to eat. Come on. And I'd hear one of them come back. Okay, I'm on the way. I'm coming. So they were all coming, and I didn't make no sound because I had plans for them. I didn't want, and so they, come on, Gene, we're going to get something to eat. You better come on. And as this whole time, I'm flanking them. I had come up behind them. I'm flanking them. So I get on right in front of them. They were coming. I was on their left side, and so they didn't see me. I was camouflaged, and so they were, Gene, we're leaving, man. And I had 22 rifle, about 17 shells. I shoot, bam, 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 bam. I shot around the feet over their head, bam. And Alan Collins was smart. He hit the ground. He just hit the deck. Gary took off running, hollering, and Ronnie was, hey, it's us, man. Hey, there's people up here. There's people up here. We're hunters. Quit shooting. I come out of the bushes and I went, hey, remember that whoever shot over my head this morning? And they said, man, you shot my head. Yeah. You shot all right. I said, yeah, I didn't hit you, did I? I said, I shot all right. I scared the piss out of
Oh
him.
my God.
Yes, sir. Scared the piss out of him. Man, I'm old country. Merle Haggard, Hank Williams, Lefty Frizzell, Hank Snow, Hank Lachlan, Hank Thompson, all the Hanks. And I'm old. I mean, new bands, Southern rock bands. I was Skynyrd because Ronnie, and growing up around that music and stuff like that. But after Ronnie was gone, even before Ronnie was gone, it was still, I'll tell you what, when we left to go on tour, fall tour, Merle Haggard had just came out with his Ramblin' Fever CD, not CD nowadays, it was a cassette.
His record.
His album. And so I had bought that, and I had a boom box. And when we were going up in the air and we were flying, that Merle Haggard Ramblin' Fever, the song was playing. And naturally, that's the last song Ronnie ever heard played was Ramblin' Fever. But when we run out of the gas, whatever, I naturally turned that thing off and set it down off of the table, and was, trying to figure out. I put it back there because right after we got in flight, and I'm sure that's what the song he listened to when he took 2 sleeping pills, and he went to sleep. I put him on the floor underneath Alan Garius and Kevin Nelson's feet, and he went to sleep there. And the last music that boy ever heard was Merle Haggard, Ram the Fever. And the boombox was on there, and of course it wouldn't have been tied down, so when the plane crashed, that boombox went flying, and of course everything else went flying, bags and their personal bags, and stuff that they had on them, and the girls would have cassette players, and there was a guitar or 2 on there probably, and normally your crew and your lighting crew and sound crew would ride on a bus, and a band would ride on a bus. But since Skynyrd had the plane and there was enough seats on there, and Eckerman could put his sound crew on there, and the lighting crew, his own company, and the sound crew with Showco, put them on there.
Which would be cost effective for
cost
the band.
effective, and they would be there for showtime, and it could do more shows with a plane than you could ride on a bus. It's great, especially Big Engine. They've been around a while. They got some great music, and they're good people. And Tony Micas is one spectacular guy. Not only a musician but a father and a husband figure. And Natural Instincts. I mean, they play some great music. And Second Shot, but I've heard them one time. And there's a lot of good entertainment around here. A lot of great entertainment came out of this town. I mean, even with Hatchet and Skynyrd and Blackfoot, started early, but they've come from someplace else. Molly Hatchet, Atlanta Rhythm Section. Actually, know it or not, before they became Atlanta Rhythm Section, they were. You ever heard the song Snoopy? Snoopy, it was done by Classics 4. The Classics 4 was Robert Nix, the drummer for Atlanta Rhythm Section, and the other guy, the bass player. That was the Classics 4, even way before there was ever a Atlanta Rhythm Section. Jacksonville has spit out a lot of good entertainment. Yeah. Still spitting some out.
I have to agree.
And the Limp Bizkit come from Jacksonville. Rapper stuff, and I'm certainly not into that rap stuff, but I mean, there's a lot of entertainment that came out of Jacksonville. I just had a tour Saturday with the band, with the family from Holland. Came all the way from Holland to take this Gene Odom tour, and this 13-year-old from Holland says his friends hates him because he's been Southern rock all his life. He loves Southern rock. He loves Skynyrd, loves old Skynyrd music, and his younger friends are into that new heavy metal rap show.
Yeah.
So he said, I have no friends because they won't listen to my music, and I love Skynyrd. And so, what a great family that was from Holland. But go through the old neighborhood where we grew up, where the old Curtis Lowe store was, which is actually Claude Hamner's. Back then it was called Claude Midway Meats. Yeah, it starts out, in the store, which was the Claude Midway Groceries, was actually the Curtis Lowe store where the song was, written about, so and so on. But it goes all the way to the Hell House property, and you can get on the trestle and take pictures from the trestle, and you can actually take pictures to the dock where the Hell House was at.
Yeah.
And they sold that property, and they're going to start developing it, so you can't get on it anymore. He had a Corvair. They bought him a Corvair, but he was only 15 years old. And back then you had to be 16 to get your driver's license. So Sister Lacey went down to Vital Statistics. This is against the law. And said, my son Ronald Wayne Van Zant was born January the 15th, 1948. We need a birth certificate for him. So naturally they gave him a birth certificate. Ronnie was born January the 15th, 1949. But they don't know, but yeah. So he could get his driver's license.
Right.
So then he got the driver's license. He was bagging groceries at Pantry Pride, He was dating Nadine, or running around Nadine about that time. And so, but that Corvair wasn't cool. Mustangs came out in 64.5. That's 65 Mustang, but it was the first ones they came out with was 64.5, and they started selling so many hotcakes they had to make more in 65.
Right.
So the first one that is called a 64.5, then the 65, and so it was
1 minute.
it was red. It was red. He outrun a 57 Chevrolet right down there behind on Norney Boulevard, Ramona. Right, drag racing. Ronnie outrun the 57 Chevrolet.
Really?
Yeah, the 57 Chevrolet didn't like it, so running back of Ronnie and knocked Ronnie into the ditch. And Ronnie got out and beat the hell out of him.
Oh.
But Ronnie had got the car
Awesome.
fixed. Ronnie got the car fixed and he had it painted black. Right after he got it red, it was black. Yeah,
Dude,
Ronnie beat the hell out of him. Yeah,
you ended my video with a badass story.
cool.
Thanks a lot, man.
Hey, no problem. We'll do it again.
All right.
Yeah.